Welcome to Industrial PLC Applications. This video is on syncing inputs and sourcing outputs. With the Micro 850 PLC, the inputs and outputs are wired differently. The inputs are considered syncing and the outputs are considered sourcing. This stems from the way they are wired and the underlying electronics that recognize or energize an I/O device. Basically, they just follow the current. So with syncing inputs, the power or current comes from an external source, goes out to an input, through the input's contacts when the contacts are closed, and carries on to the input terminal screw. This triggers the input transistor base, which turns on the input transistor and is seen by the PLC. Alright, so here we have an NPN transistor. And before the collector we have a light emitting diode or an LED. When the switch is open, there's no current to the base, so the base emitter is not working, and therefore the light is off. When we close the switch, we can see that current now flows through the LED onto the emitter and completing the circuit, and we have the light on. So when you close the switch, the current is sunk to ground. This is why they call this syncing. Just to complicate things slightly, notice the signal flow is a positive 24 volt DC leading through the device to the terminal screw. Said another way, the input only works with a positive signal. This means the output of all input devices must be positive. Most inputs, like push buttons, are passive devices and always do this, so there's no problem. Some inputs, like proximity switches, are active devices. Their electronics need to be powered and get their power parasitically from the PLC's power supply. This means the proc switch chosen must pass the plus 24 volts through the PLC's terminal screws. There are two types, PNP and NPN. The last letter tells you the polarity of the output, so here you must use a sourcing PNP type device. So with sourcing outputs, the power comes from a 24 volt DC bus within the PLC. When an output is energized, power is switched on by an output transistor and flows to the output terminal screw, which sends power out to the device or external coil, which then turns on. The circuit is completed by the line side 2 of the device connecting to line 2. So now the transistor that's controlling our output is a PNP, or a sourcing transistor. And you can see when the switch is open, the transistor is not energized, so in the logic the output would not be energized and our actual physical output is off. When the logic says turn on the output, the transistor is fired and it becomes the source for our output, hence the name sourcing. Keep one thing in mind when dealing with PLCs and I/O. Whether it's Allen Bradley or somebody else, this still applies. They are not always going to have syncing inputs and sourcing outputs. This is not to instill any confusion, but to make you aware. So when you're working with or installing new I/O on an existing system, it's better to check or ask before wiring up the wrong device and letting out the magic smoke.